Wing Wong, we're starting the video.
Nasty.
Oh, I told you they were gonna do this. They started us.
Some guy with a bag on his head.
They started us back at the beginning of the steel mill. Remember, because we got beat up by Rocket Socket Raccoon. Oh. Okay. There's
Was it seriously Socket Raccoon?
No, it was Shocket.
Shocket.
It was something equal.
Socket seems a little.
It was something equally stupid. Anywho, whoa boy. What? Okay, that was supposed to be a double. I like how that guy just sort of obliged me. He was like, well, he snuck all the way up. I'll at least let him take him out. Whoa, I am beating him through the wall. This man is dead. I smeared his brain matter all over that wall.
And then adjusted my
Sorry,
gauntlets.
I can't come to the phone right now.
How many of those do we need? Gotta do a bunch of them. We made this, didn't I make this comment in the last video about how we should let it be, Batman should have had the choice to continue torturing this guy? I was just checking the runtime. Hang on, we're good.
The whole point is it's indicative of the fact that Batman doesn't even have the moral.
I already pushed the button.
Doesn't even have the moral
capacity to torture?
No, I'm saying
I was about to say the comics would disagree.
He doesn't have the moral schism of considering that option.
But I'll tell you what, he's got plenty of other schisms. Look at the contours on this torso. I bet you beneath that belt he's got an 8-pack. He wears the belt because he doesn't want all the attention.
It's actually a 12-pack. It goes all the way down.
Well, given what we're looking at here, I'd believe that, because I don't believe any... That package is looking suspiciously padded.
What? He can flex it, too.
Oh, dear. He's incensed. He looks at us going, how dare you? No one else is around. I could just kill these two. Anyways, I noticed this. We didn't do that. And there's somebody over there.
So he was last seen putting random question marks over there.
Well, it's freaking true. I'll never pass up an opportunity. Oh, okay. To make fun of the Riddler.
See, he's not a bad villain.
He's not
it's just
scary.
In this one.
Flash, try being his villain.
He actually would make a great villain for Flash.
Well, but that's more of an insult to Flash than a compliment to Riddler.
I agree.
Because let's not forget that the Flash Rogues Gallery includes Captain Boomerang. Well, I do it every time.
Didn't he actually work with the... What was that
yes,
other one? The Atom guy?
He was in an episode of Arrow.
The Riddler was?
No, I thought we were.
I thought we were still freaking out there. I was like, "Which Arrow are you watching?"
I thought we were still talking about Captain Boomerang.
Oh no!
And they made the mistake of trying to make him serious. Like, you can't. He's Captain Boomerang. There's no seriousness for Captain Boomerang. Get me up here. I do think, despite its flaws, at least... Ooh, I'm not going to be able to make those line up. Darn it. Despite its flaws... Ah!
Despite its flaws, I'm going to jump in here.
Despite its flaws... Let me finish my thought for a second. Suicide Squad did a better job where they made him kind of like the boob he is.
Yeah.
Because...
you have to embrace that narrative if you're going to put him in a movie.
Here we go. Bing! No! Oh, hey! I inadvertently helped! I did a thing. Oh, boy. Well, whatever. I may have made this worse for myself because I can't... Oh, okay, there you go. Well, trying that one more time. I forget what the correct button is. Boom, there we go. Riddler continues to suck. Anyways, what were we doing last time? Last time we were in the steel mill because Joker's plot point is happening now. And we need to... I think part of the reason it took us so long is that we're trying to do the Riddler stuff while we're doing this. Because if we have to come back for it later, it's just going to be more of a hassle. Are you hoping to furnish us with topics or are you just leaving me to fill on my own this week?
Well, no, I have a few, but I wasn't sure whether that you had a particular direction of leaning.
What makes you think I have any direction in life anymore? Uh-oh, Batman.
Okay.
Oh, Batman. Batman! What? What's happened to you?
Stroke and stroke.
Heave!
Stroke.
Heave! Water! Mud! What's the rest of it?
Faster. The sting.
No, let's not go to the whole thing. Although, well, we could talk about that. It's great. Let's talk about that.
Moses?
Well, I was going to talk about the film, but I suppose we could just talk about Moses. Moses supposes his toes are roses.
Yes, Prince of Egypt is a great film.
Excellent film, even. I heard someone make the claim that I would even make support. I would lend support to, which is that it deserves the accolades often given to Lion King in terms of musical opening songs. Because Lion King's got the classic sunrise, whatever the words are.
What?
I'm not going to attempt to mimic it.
I was thinking Fiddler on the Roof. There's sunrise.
No,
sunset.
you know what I'm talking about when I say that.
Yeah,
surely.
I got you.
But I think "Deliver Us," the song, the opening song from Prince of Egypt, is just so much better.
Better?
Yes, I mean I would say that the film in general is better. As much as I know,
well, the film as a whole.
I know
maybe,
The Lion King is touted as one of Disney's greatest successes, but it's never been my favorite. I mean, I can understand why on a critical level why it's revered, but it's never been I've never loved it as a film. But yeah, Prince of Egypt, tremendous film. I heard that it is one of the only. I mean, certainly Batman. It's Batman's on his own today. I don't know why he's being silly. It's the only. Stop it! At least I corrected it that time. Is there a Riddler thing up there I have to do? It looks like there is. Riddler, if I survive this, I will kill you. It's one of the only. There we go. I think biblical stories, biblical films in general. Oh, it's just the green. It's the green light. But certainly the only film portrayal of. Wow, this is just going poorly. I can't even get my point out, Batman. I'm going to stand up here until I say it. It's the only biblical portrayal of the Exodus story that was not only consulted, but actually fully approved by major religious leaders of all three religions that contain it.
Well, and I think
narrative.
it's a very
respectful,
well thought through presentation.
Yes. I think
it's not...
it really gives a lot of thought to everything it does, and it develops things well, and it crucially isn't. What's the Charlton Heston film?
Ooh.
What is the one where Moses is a white dude? Wasn't it just called The Ten Commandments or
it was
something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't that. Because that... Yeah.
Spoiler alert! Moses was not white.
Yes, and spoiler alert for pretty much the fact that film didn't give 1 ounce of liquefied turd whether or not it was being historically accurate.
Well, there's a lot of films that are parabiblical like that, though, that they use biblical framework, but then they basically take. I would argue it's even probably a stretch to call it poetic license because it's basically just changing the story. Like, for instance, what was that one movie about Noah and the Ark, the whole deal, but they literally had, like...
I don't recall such a film.
It was very strange. Like, they had, like, random rock giants, and it was like, what is this film?
Is this one of those kids' Sunday school things?
No. This is... Yes, this was a... I'm going to have to look it up, because that's going to bother me a lot. It was a...
Oh, Barry. Oh, Batty.
Presented film that was actually... Initially, it had a lot of excitement built around it, and then it just flopped majorly.
I don't know what
I can't remember.
To, so. I don't recall a film being made about Noah ever.
Oh, it's actually just called Noah. It was Russell Crowe.
Oh, so it's live action?
Yes.
I was thinking of the same, like, Prince of Egypt Joseph King of Dreams vibe.
And it was really bad. Like,
Well,
super bad.
why does Russell Crowe attach himself to these things? He does this a lot where he plays live action. Is it probably a gritty reinterpretation?
It's supposed to be, but it ended up being really mystic and kind of not.
Yeah, well,
because
for example, he was in Robin Hood too, which tried to be like a gritty, serious retelling of the actual history, and it wasn't a deplorable film, but it was nothing to be proud of.
Anyway, it was a really bad
that's that
interpretation of the biblical narrative.
Well, I suppose there's one good thing that came from this double take is last time we let her hit us. Now we're going to see what happens when we know she's there. Because obviously he doesn't, hit her. What? Batman, you've been working out too much. Your broad shoulders can't fit through very large gaps. Okay, for real? Wow. So now we know canonically that Batman is at least 5 feet wide. All right, let's see what Shocket Rocket give it to me. Whoa! She did hit me again. I pressed it.
I'm sorry.
I wonder if I could teach her
Teach her a lesson.
The cutscene had to be like, "Holy crap! It's gonna hit her."
No, by contrast, the Prince of Egypt actually had not only just a great cast, but they started with
the most star-studded cast for any animated film. There was not a single person in that film who was not voiced by a major league player.
Like an A-lister, yeah.
Seriously,
for sure.
I mean, Val Kilmer as Moses, which is weird if the only thing you know of Val Kilmer as was Batman. Jeff Goldblum as Aaron, which again is weird if you only know Jeff Goldblum as anything he's ever done. And then, even the fact that, his mom, the Pharaoh, and the Queen is Patrick Stewart and Helen Mirren. You're going, these are...
I didn't know it was Helen Mirren.
They're not even major characters and they're heavy hitters.
Yeah.
And, of course, score by Hans Zimmer, which explains why it's phenomenal.
Yes, Zimmer is my favorite. I know we've had disagreements about that, but...
Have we? I don't think we've ever discussed
yours
musical.
was Williams.
Well, Hans's is Williams, too, so...
What?
Hans's favorite composer is also...
You can't say myself.
No. Well, true.
I want to listen to myself while I work on myself.
I suppose, but I don't think he's just being modest. I think he's being genuine when he says
for sure. He probably took a lot of influence from him even.
Here's a topic. It's not a biography. The documentary called Score.
Yes.
It was on Amazon or I think it was Amazon.
I have yet to watch it, actually.
No, you watched it with us, I swear.
Nope.
I could have sworn you did.
I don't think so.
Well,
I recall talking about it with you, but...
I could have sworn... Well, okay then. You sapped my topic.
Well, go ahead. No.
It's an excellent film, excellent documentary that goes into the development of film score, because it used to be back in the day, back in the silent movie era, it was just put some music over it so that it isn't just literally silent, like white noise for the 2 hours.
Right.
And then it became, well, if we're going to put music over it, we could make it so that the music fits a little bit. And then, all right, we're doing this again. And then it became, well, what if we really directly composed the music specifically for this scene so that it really gives us the best flow? What is that guy? Proximity mines. Okay, so now we can't even get too close to guys without some of them blowing up. But it's an excellent film, and the reason I brought it up is because there's actually genuinely a point when they're interviewing Hans Zimmer, and he makes the joke saying, one of his weird sort of, not like genuine fears, but like he, as someone whose entire living is staked on his ability to be creative.
Yeah.
He's like, there's times when I sometimes just wonder, what if I go to work today and it's just nothing, there we go, the tap's off.
Yeah, yeah.
And then he's like, well, I'm just going to have to call the producers and be like, I'm sorry, I can't do this. You're going to have to call John Williams. Anyways, great film. If you're at all musically inclined, it's really quite fascinating. Or I suppose a film buff. I suppose it would be interesting for that reason as well. But we started talking about something else, didn't we? Prince of Egypt.
Yeah,
great
I was
cast,
actually
great music. But why did we talk about that too?
I thought it was an interesting bit. We talked about Moses initially because you were...
Moses and how he supposes his toes are roses.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's interesting, though, because it does help me to kind of, without feeling like it's just linchpinned in there, to discuss our opinions on the Book of Ecclesiastes and why it specifically
Okay.
is. No.
We're
Here's
gonna
the thing.
have the trifecta of heavy hitting, depressing, and
No, not at all. I'm saying
not at all.
so within its own religious context, because we've actually had a fair bit of discussion on
He's off
Eastern
on his-
philosophy and all
He's
this
off
other
on his
stuff.
own.
Me?
No, this guy.
Oh, I was like, I thought you were talking about me just going off on my own.
Well, depending on
That's
how far
true,
you
too.
go. Oh, he's got the proximity mines.
But
Something tells me he's gonna blow up when I do this. Oh,
explode your head, explode.
well, never mind. I guess maybe that. I guess. Oh, he exploded down. Oh, now it's me getting shot. was
Speaking
excellent.
of Ecclesiastes, no.
Oh yeah, and now we get the improved Joker cutscenes. Now that he's
So-
take the remote. It's your turn. I got.
well-
hang on, technical glitch. I got to move a pillow out of the way.
I may just continue my thoughts. Yeah,
Well, I wasn't
Here,
saying you had
here.
to. Wait,
because I'm gonna just continue my thoughts.
Oh, I thought you were. I thought you had already died in those 2 seconds,
no.
and it's sad that I believed that.
Wow. No, my thought on that is we've talked about Eastern, kind of
Whoop.
philosophy,
Did you see
and
that?
a great many things
He just
have
tensed
been
his back muscles so much that his. I'm gonna highlight that in the video.
have been religious in nature, and I think if you can read other literature because of its value on a cultural level, you have to be able to read the Bible in the same way. So, that being said,
Thank you, Dr. Peterson.
well, there you go. That's not the worst thing I've ever been compared to.
Oh wait,
I don't think he can.
I have the upgrade.
Yeah, I was about to
I
say.
have the upgrade that makes me non-thermal. Ooh, that spooked me. I'm not gonna lie, because I couldn't remember that.
But most
Can
people,
I nab his nabs?
most people, that's gonna go in the blooper bit.
No, it's staying in
I
the.
nab his
Oh,
nads?
it's staying in the video. What makes you think I'm editing that out?
So, most people's view on Ecclesiastes is that it's obnoxious and is not really an interest to read because most people just find it to be a frustration. As
Why?
far as
I've never heard anyone share this opinion.
well, the kind of common conception or perception rather about Ecclesiastes is that it's just a guy complaining about a bunch of junk, and that's really not it. If you can get to the
a
core
wise
of what it
guy
is.
complaining about actual life junk.
Well, but he's not really even complaining. It's really more of a commentary on just his own observations in life, and I think it's very absurdist, in fact.
Well, it's arguably the definition of absurdist. If you really wanted to use it for that, you wouldn't have to twist it in any way.
So anyway, what are your thoughts on Ecclesiastes, and why do you think it's an interesting book?
the answer to that is because I'm an absurd. I would say that because I'm an absurdist. As much as I think, well, I think it's a little. It's tough to describe your own political views in single word labels. But if I had to pick one, political, philosophical. If I had to pick one, I would say that absurdism is the life philosophy that I find. How do they see me? I was running. What the? Oh, whoa! That was
crucifix.
great. I nuzzled in. I was just like, I'm just gonna take a nap.
Very
I wonder if he ever does.
Masonic.
I don't think he was far too. I don't think that was not the image I got. To me, it looked like because it was a weird recess. It looked like he was just settling in for a quick nap. He's like, I'm up here. They won't see me. We'll just
Took a couple bullets. Gotta
take a bat
break.
nap.
A bat nap. Anyway, continue.
We've talked about absurdism, though, haven't we?
Well, yes, we have. I'm
Because
just saying
this was the War of Mine video in which we got to prove our absurdism.
Within the whole Solomon thing, or rather, it wasn't strictly Solomon. Truthfully, it was probably one of his scribes because of the way that the book introduces itself. But that's neither here nor there.
Hang about now. You're okay. There's dudes in here, and they are wandering around. Holy crap! What are you doing?
I'm sitting up here is what I'm doing.
Oof! You're lucky that you didn't get yourself spotted. Care to share with us what use is that degree if you can't explain statements like that? Unpack it.
I can, but I mean, how interesting would this be? This is a bit
We've
of
talked about just about any random. Okay, well, that was quite a bold move there, Bats. I'll take him out while his two armed friends watch.
I died while trying to swing away.
That was excellent. You might as well make some use of that degree you spent years on.
So, and I'm gonna pull up real quick just so I can use specifics. Because
maybe I'll regret this.
No, because I'm not gonna.
Let me pull
belabor.
out the literature. I've already forgotten the point you're now about to defend. What? It may not have been written by Solomon. Is that the point? He flexes. He does his weird back twitch.
It says the words. It says in chapter 1, verse number 1 of Ecclesiastes, the words of the preacher, the son of David, king of Jerusalem. So it's likely because of the fact that Solomon would have been speaking, but wouldn't have necessarily. It's Solomon's
it's
words.
The argument that someone else wrote it down, which then means like half of Paul's stuff wasn't written by
100%, and that's true.
Well,
I'm just saying.
So it's doesn't actually change.
No. I wasn't saying. Now, some people have argued that because of the fact that they use the word preacher or whatever, that it is, or I think that a more proper, I suppose, interpretation would be teacher.
Well, back in that day, they were the same thing, weren't they?
Especially within Israelite culture, for sure.
Well, that's why, yes, not just in general.
But I think some people have made the argument that it could have just been one of the sons of David, like within his lineage.
Well, except for the fact that by the time Solomon was king, the rest were dead.
Well, and it's likely just based on the fact that Solomon was the wisest king to just say, well, it was more than likely his commentary.
And it also
on
talks about the word, even what it says, it talks about, all the things he's done within his life, which he did quite a lot.
Right.
We got a loner.
So, the word in which is often interpreted as vanities or meaningless, it's all as meaningless, could better be interpreted, and again, I don't want to go into too boring details, but according to the original language, could have been better interpreted as emptiness or as
isn't that what
lack
vanity
of
means?
Yes, but I mean as.
Come on, pal. Now I got to do this, and then I got to jet because they'll start shooting.
So oftentimes people read the Ecclesiastes and they go, "Well, he was just saying life is meaningless as a whole." Well, no, he was saying.
See, how do they know me immediately?
It's because you're not just flying in and
there you go.
In there.
I think I managed to get away enough, but that was lightning reflexes if these guys had.
Well, they're definitely not stormtroopers. I'll give them that.
Well,
it's worth the nuance because a lot of people go, well, meaningless. He's actually saying that all life is meaningless except for serving the Lord, and he's not saying.
Ouch! What? I think
this is the critical part in which I say it's really a great representation of absurdism. Is he's not saying it's meaningless in its own right. What he's saying is it has to be framed within because it's empty or it's falling short of giving you any sort of fulfillment unless it's framed within the context of understanding God.
Even then, I'm not confident. I don't know that I read that super evidently.
What do you mean?
It says in almost every chapter, and this is where I draw the most conclusive line between the two. Is it says basically every chapter has this few lines which say basically, there is nothing new under the sun. Everything is meaningless. Therefore, there's three things he says the man should do: find pleasure in the work of his hands, serve the Lord, and eat, drink, and be merry. Which basically means and those might seem in conflict, where he literally says all the work I did, I did more work than any of you ever could, and all of mine was meaningless too. And yet he then goes on to recommend work and saying, well, you might as well. And that's where it's absurdist rather than nihilist, if you ask me.
Correct.
Because it's going, this is all meaningless to do, yet you should do it.
Right.
Because it's all there is to do, so find some fulfillment in it. You might as well, because what else is there to do? And then I think that's why the eat, drink, and be merry comes together, because it's not just that some might take that to be hedonistic, where it's like, oh, just,
exactly, and that's where
fill yourself with pleasure because everything's meaningless. And it's like, well, no, they're correlative. find pleasure in the work of your hands so that you can eat, drink, and be merry. It's like it's again coming down to the whole, basically live within your means, work, build yourself a living and enjoy the fruits of your labor. And I could think of worse ways to spend life.
Right. Well, but what I'm saying is, it is often.
This isn't even. We've upgraded our soapbox to a pulpit.
Well, but see, and this is why I didn't want to get too far into it. All I'm saying is that within the grander biblical literature, a lot of people that are maybe outside of the religious context would say Proverbs is one of the only things they've really read, which is fine and it's fair. But I think Ecclesiastes is worth reading because of its ability to compare directly to especially Western philosophy. I mean, early Western philosophy. It's because it's arguably a lot of Western philosophy, barring maybe the Greek, is rooted in the Judeo-Christian perspective. I mean,
very well. I mean, yeah.
So
because like Ben Shapiro talks about how the what? Oh, now I forget the name of the era.
How do you do your little bit?
He has to be walking under it. You're not. Okay. He's too far away. I keep thinking the Reformation. I know that's not it. The Renaissance. It's not the Renaissance. It's the other RE word. Now I can't remember. I think, or was it
the Enlightenment? I mean, what?
I mean, that's not an RE word, but I think it was that. Maybe it was that, and I'm getting confused somehow. But the Enlightenment era of philosophy is an extension directly of Judeo-Christian foundations.
Yes.
And arguably we are still living in an era heavily you could argue that we're living in the tail end of it where we're still technically even a part of it, although some would argue that we've passed out of it.
Okay,
barely.
I'm gonna have to just get something done here.
Yeah, you can't.
I was thinking
do something other than this. This doesn't have to be your first move.
Well, but I
think you might have missed the opportunity because no one's underneath them anymore. Making me sick. Oh, you just missed that chance because that guy was passing underneath it. He's going the other way now. Well, okay. This is one way to do it that'll attract every person alive. Oh, he's got a friend in there. He's got a friend in there. Okay, there. No, you...
Well, okay.
Oh, boy, you just dislocated your hip on the way down. Why is this so hard?
The word that... I'm going to look it up because I'm... This is why I think it represents the absurdist argument so well, is because the word is directly translated better, again, as emptiness or as lacking, lacking wholeness. So it's incomplete. And that's a better way of maybe saying it. So, to me, vanity is different than incomplete. What Solomon or whoever wrote Ecclesiastes, arguably Solomon by every stretch of the imagination, is what he's saying is it's incomplete without some other foundational hold that actually gives it meaning, and that to me is very absurdist.
That's not absurdist, because absurdist is that there is no meaning no matter what you
make
do.
It is the point.
No, that would be existentialist.
Well,
we discussed this in our... Have you not watched our diatribe in this war of mine?
I did, but the
surely
point
I
you
would have
made,
thought that had stuck with you forever.
The point you made was the...
Existentialism is the idea that life has no inherent meaning, but you can give it meaning by your actions. Nihilists would say, no, you can't, because even your attempts at creating meaning are themselves meaningless and thus foolish.
Right.
But the absurdist sort of goes in the middle and says, even your attempts at meaning are ultimately meaningless. But
because meaning exists.
Why? But then what's to stop you, basically? I've often heard, it's not philosophically, it doesn't hold philosophical water. But the joke I've often heard to synopsize it is, well, it's basically just spite. You go, my life is meaningless, and I'm gonna just, spite that. I'm gonna create my own meaning, which is itself useless, but I might as well.
I suppose Solomon then was more existential. However,
I don't agree. I think it's still absurdist because I don't think I think even when he says That's why I think the whole find satisfaction in the work of your hands, eat, drink, and be merry. It's going. This is even that's still meaningless. But go ahead and do it because you might as well. What else are you gonna do? Find whatever pleasure in your work you can. Do whatever you can to sustain yourself and basically.
Well, I think it's an argument.
Basically, go nuts.
It's certainly an argument against striving, I suppose, is one thing to say.
Ooh, can I get this guy if he comes up here?
But anyway, all that to say, I think Ecclesiastes is actually quite a great book based on just the ability to say, you know what, it's not simply a bitter diatribe, as a lot of people assume it is.
I've never heard anyone just say that. So
he's trying to actually make a point that's very much going to help people in the future by saying you should, again, as you said, do what you can with life, even if it is, meaningless in nature, I suppose, or in...
Is he going to stay there? I think he's staying there. I could get him through that window.
Because the understanding, once you realize we're all just kind of...
Dust in the wind?
Yeah, exactly.
Shall we break into song?
Dust to dust, is if we're going to stick with the biblical concept.
Well, arguably, dust in the wind was... I don't think that was subtext. It was pretty obvious. That guy's dead. We smash his head on the fins of a radiator.
Check him.
I can't. You're making me die. So help me if I die because of you.
Because I just said you to check his pulse.
Well, I think we got out okay.
Anyway, but no, the argument has been made that, again, it's just kind of you can just kind of leave that one alone. Same thing as Lamentations. And I'm going, no,
well, I find Lamentations the harder to read of the two. But then again, I'll admit,
still the same
here's a weird thing for me to have an opinion on, unless you are like me. I don't love most of the things Jeremiah did. I find him to be hard to read just in general.
Yeah, well,
here's what's funny.
He was the weeping prophet. He was a bit of an Eeyore, I suppose, is the best way of saying it.
Well, sure. I don't know. Oh, he's going to turn around. Ooh. All right, we're doing better this time.
So, anyway, that Moses topic lent itself to that we're
going to get another
very
guy.
Easily. But
come on down.
Any adaptation I've ever seen in film of...
Oh, yeah, we were talking about Noah.
Of the biblical narratives have been typically poor. The only movie that I have heard good things about is the one about Timothy and Paul recently that came out.
I have not heard about this. Here's a film. I didn't think we were ever going to talk about this because honestly, I don't know that I have much to say about it. But, please, we're so close. How did he see me? How does he keep seeing me? How on earth? You colossal turd bucket. Was it just the one guy? He's the only one that's left? Well, then just eat crap at 80 miles per hour. I've got a boot sandwich coming at you at Mach 1. Okay, so there was someone else. Why couldn't I see him?
I thought he shot up at you like Call of Duty style.
That was his final death shot. That was so stupid. Where was the other guy?
I don't know.
What were we? We're
talking about movie that you thought you
the film Silence.
Silence of the Lambs?
No, it's called Silence. And I was curious about it because I have no clue at all what even led me to it. But for some reason it was on my film list because I was curious about it. You just broke a window.
I didn't mean to just step through the window.
Well, why would you do it at all? Ooh-wee.
I think I died. Sad.
You're at least furnishing us with great opportunities for thumbnails. I don't know how I came across it, but I did. And the synopsis of it is, it's loosely based on a real story of Jesuit missionaries in Japan, specifically during the Tokugawa era, in which basically right in the early period of that time there were missionaries going to Japan, and it was sort of the Japanese church was growing somewhat, significantly, and as sadly frequently happens in history, whenever emperors and kings find that a lot of people are banding together with religious, ideology, they take issue. And so it was banned and outlawed, and they were persecuted. And so these guys are going to find their former, like, I'm not sure what the proper term is, but like their former teacher, the guy who taught them, because they're part of the actual church. And there's the claims that he basically renounced the faith because of the persecution, because it was like the fact that it wasn't just him. It was, they were torturing anyone, and so it was the idea that if they would have mercy on the others, if he, being a priest, would denounce the faith, because I guess they thought that was like a more significant thing. So I was thinking, okay, this is certainly an interesting setting. I was not at all familiar with this era of history or this sort of thing. And it was a little deceptive because Adam Driver appears quite frequently in the promotion. Like a lot of the commercials and trailers I saw has Adam Driver in it. Is that how you came
across it? I mean,
I don't remember. But I've kind of always been curious about Adam Driver because he was in, of course, the Star Wars crap ones as the only potentially interesting character they could come up with. Even then, it wasn't that interesting, but he was the most interesting. And they didn't do much with him, so I was like, well, I do think he seems like a pretty cool guy, and I've seen interviews with him where I was like, he seems like an interesting person, so I was like, I'll watch this, thinking he was going to be a major part of it, and then it turns out the other guy, the other main character, who is arguably, or not arguably, definitely the main character, is, of all people, freaking second Spider-Man. Andrew Garfield. And he's not the leading man. Because it's really like within probably the first half hour of the movie, the other guy's gone. Adam Driver's not in it anymore. I mean, okay, he does come back for a very brief bit later. But I'm like, this... So it's then you're just stuck with Andrew Garfield attempting... And he's pretty obviously...
Hacksaw Ridge.
He's... Okay, that's not relevant.
Well, I'm saying you're acting like he's not that good an actor.
Well, I've never encountered him to be such. But also... I can't help... There's a degree to which I suppose one might argue you should be able to get past this, but he's a pretty... I think he's wrong about a lot of things. And he's a liberal to the degree of being dumb, if you ask me.
Okay, so
we're picking fights with people...
political views.
Well, but I couldn't help but I go... Here's my point is, we talked about things like... We talked about things like Prince of Egypt, which was done very... Respectfully, I think, is the best word, because they treated it as whether or not they believed it, because it was DreamWorks. Right. Clearly, the whole studio can't have all been born-again believers.
Right.
But I'm going, even those who didn't were very respectful, and they treated it as a subject matter which deserved respect.
Right.
And I go, Andrew Garfield's not that, because he's been kind of vocal about his opinions of things. So the whole time I'm going... And it ultimately, ending up, I'm not sure what I was trying to say. Ultimately, the film makes some very dodgy non-theological points coming from the perspective of these priest guys. So I'm going, okay, it took turns that I was like, I'm not sure what to think of this, because it really does not pull punches in ways that I don't think, didn't realize there was more. Man, those shotguns just take you apart. So anyways, this is why I didn't exactly think we were ever going to talk about it, because my views on it are too convoluted and complex.
Something that you feel like I should watch, or other people should watch?
I suppose in the sense that it's a film that leads to thought and questioning. I mean,
that actually opens up a discussion about what the purpose of watching film is.
Well, sure, we can get into that later. But I mean, it's I suppose, but to me, I felt like on a purely meta narrative, I was like, okay, I thought this was going to be about different things with different people. And then the guy I came to watch the film for wasn't even in most of it. And the guy I don't really like was in the rest of it. And then it goes further than that into like, okay, now they're going to use this. They're using people who are, you have the upgrade. It's like you're using people who are in the film at least, they're of this belief system. and you're using that position to express beliefs that would not fit with that belief system. And so it feels a little bit like it's abusing it asks you. It would be like if Prince of Egypt tried to put in a lot of non-Judaic stuff. Like as if Moses believed these things. Because you're using a position of pseudo-authority. Obviously it's a film and it's fallible because the people who made it are fallible. But you're trying to say, these people who believed this stuff, whether or not the actors did, you're now using that to try and legitimize the claims you're having these characters make. And it was a little like, I felt the ending especially kind of had me going, this was not something I thought was at all like what it looked like.
Sure.
So, I don't know. And before anyone goes, well, that's just because there were plenty of reviews I read that were like, people who don't like this are exactly the kind of people who wouldn't because they're stuck up and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, well, I can tell that you're just
like on
a bundle of fun.
Is that what they're saying? Like
basically.
The argument was basically on a religious level?
Yeah, because it's the people who are trying to make the same new agey argument that the film ends up trying to make. So you have to move when you do that. They know you're there immediately. That's what. Well, that time you just face plant. But, anyways, I think even in answer to those people, I don't think it's as well made a film as some people. Like it makes some very weird filmmaking decisions.
Right, and that's So to clarify, I'm not suggesting.
How long did I spend talking about a thing I didn't think I was ever going to talk about?
Maybe 10 minutes. No,
we're not. We're almost over.
No, I think
not really. We got a while.
To sum up just the kind of
one more time
initial discussion overall, my perspective, whether my personal convictions weigh into it somewhat, yes, but
well, of course they will.
But I'm saying my
no
perspective on
objectivity and all that.
My perspective on a broad level is that I don't go about assuming that people are going to believe the same way I believe, nor do I expect it. So, that's why I interact with, and why I think both of us interact with Eastern culture as well as religion and just other perspectives that are beyond our own.
We talked about the essay I wish would be written about the parallels between Eastern and Western culture, or philosophy more specifically.
Yes, but I mean, more so than just that. I'm just saying, if the foundational principle of ignorance is
assumption.
Not only assumption, that's the lowest form of knowledge.
Well, it's the assumption of knowledge, thinking you know when you don't, because that's worse.
But that's stubbornness.
Being ignorant is one thing. Thinking you're right when you're ignorant is impossible to cure.
The root of ignorance is arrogance.
Well, I think arrogance is a little strong.
Because
I think it's more just unquestioning. It's not like it's that people go, I do know. It's just that they didn't bother to check.
Yes, but it's a refusal. It's a refusal to check.
No, because I think some people just don't do the homework. Some people hear a thing and then go, "Yeah, okay." My favorite quote on the matter is,
You're saying some people are
it might be Camus
intentionally
again.
choosing.
I think people just, I don't think it comes from, oh, I'm smart, therefore I know, therefore I don't have to check. I think it's just the quote I like is from Camus, where he talks about skepticism, and again, when it comes to labeling philosophies by single words, I tend to try to avoid to do that.
Right.
But I do have some degree of sympathy for the skeptic ideology. And so he says the skeptic is not the one who again, I'm not going to get the quote right, but the skeptic is not he who disbelieves all things, but he who... Well, how does he... Okay.
Who questions how that guy saw you up there?
I have no clue how that happened, but it's not just he who questions everything, but he who researches, and this is the kicker, as opposed to he who asserts and believes that he has found.
Correct.
Because you're going, that's the problem, is it's not just ignorance. Ignorance can be cured. Ignorance is just, I don't know. All it takes then is figuring it out. Sometimes ignorance can be cured by accident.
Right.
Sometimes you learn things when you're not trying.
So I suppose what keeps you in ignorance
it's the assertion and thinking that you found where you go, I heard this thing, or sometimes it's, I had this idea. I feel like even on a trivial level, this is one of the pet peeves of mine. Like, there's trivial. I used to follow these. I think it was on Pinterest of all things back in the day. It was like a board of like fun fact type stuff. But I started finding out that so much of it was like clearly just made up. You're going, someone thought of this, someone had this idea, and because it made sense, they went, well then, yeah, it's probably right. And like first I was like, I wouldn't. There were some things that I was a little like, I'm not so sure about that fact, but maybe I'm wrong. And then there were things, some of them were like, okay, I know that for a fact to be false.
Right.
So clearly I can't trust these things anymore. Because you're going, there's people that do that. And they go, well, simply because someone told me and it made sense, therefore I just sort of accepted it.
Right.
And that's the problem. It's you go, well, the assumption that you found something is what really is the root of ignorance. Because then you will never learn.
Correct.
You can never learn what you think you know.
Well, and that's the whole, sorry to jump to Bruce Lee here all of a sudden, but that's the whole
You have to be sorry to jump to
empty
Bruce
cup
Lee.
thing, the concept that if you...
Be water, my friend.
No,
Be
no,
water,
you're,
my friend.
No. That he
Water
talks
can
about...
flow and it can crash.
You just gonna continue
It's
going on that?
I like that video. It's fun. I just think he's somewhat charismatic as a person.
Well, he was very charismatic, and one of the things he said was that you cannot... I'm not directly quoting it, but it's basically you can't fill a cup that's already full. Like you can't add to the knowledge that you think you already have.
Yes, well, my favorite way of putting it was some Greek person, probably Plato. But it says, I just think the way it's put is somewhat elegant, where it says, the wise learn from all people and all things, the middling learn from their experience, and the wise have all the answers. Or not I screwed it up, and the fools have all the answers.
Yeah.
I got it reversed. Dang it. I robbed myself of my favorite quote. But yeah, the wise learn from everything, the average from their experience, and the fools have all the answers. And you're going...
I could water it down even further.
No, don't water it. You ain't got to water it down.
I'm just saying there's a quote from Alien Avatar that says...
Alien Avatar.
Literally is just hard to fill a cup that is already full.
Isn't that you already quoted Bruce Lee?
Well,
you just quoted him again.
No, it's
and you gave him an Indian accent for some reason. I find that distasteful.
Wow, that's what she.
It's what she said.
It's what in Avatar it is.
Okay.
Anyway,
I'm mad that I screwed that up.
I
was going to deliver that like it was the proper morsel it was, and then I screwed it up.
All that to say,
what?
If you have only ever
okay, I think we just learned something.
That Batman can die?
The scanner will not detect you when you're still, but it will detect you if you move while they're scanning. I thought that the upgrade we had canceled out night vision, but it's only if you're standing still. I guess they can still sort of see movement if you're moving.
So,
yikes, this is difficult.
The point is, if you have only ever exposed yourself to the kind of familiar city of knowledge around which you have been exposed already.
What an allegory.
I would encourage you to get outside of your
get outside of your
habitat.
City. Yeah. Live outside the city. Go visit the rural areas.
Yeah, exactly. Get outside of the
go out into a field with a shovel and dig up some thought potatoes. Thought-tatoes. Potatoes. I don't know.
Potatoes. I don't know whether that imagery is going to come through.
Pathatos. I think that's all the variations. You can combine those two words. Anyways.
So, yeah.
Good stuff, I guess? Question mark. Is any of this valid? Well, I suppose philosophically speaking, it is valid, if you know the definition of valid philosophically. Whether or not it's true, who can judge? Well, I felt like I had a topic earlier this week, but I don't. I thought I made a note of something I thought, ooh, we could talk about that. It came to mind, but then it, like so many things, it just went away.
No, that seems like that would happen.
Seems like it would happen, and indeed does and did. Well, we still got a little ways to go. We were talking about
the point of consuming media.
Hang on.
But-
It was, I'm just remembering, not because I'm seeing it. I'm looking at the topic list, but it wasn't because I saw it. It was because it was something from something we discussed in a previous video that I was going to bring back somehow, but I think the moment's passed, so I can't remember how the connection was going to come about.
Bring it about.
Well, I don't remember it exactly. We talked about... You have to move immediately. You got to move immediately.
I did!
Clearly, the answer is we just can't perform that move.
Well, you've tried it a few times.
I've tried it. Well, yes, I've tried it several times, and none of them have worked, so I'm detecting a pattern. I don't know if I've got it. It was something I thought that was only related to what we were talking about, and since we're not talking about it, the thought's gone. My potato thought was I'm in Ireland right now, and there are no potato thoughts.
So, I believe, the concept of
every day's a good day with your paint. Yes,
the
Batman,
concept
I get
of
that
why
they've got
you
minds.
consume various art forms, be it media or
that's
art or whatever
very good
else,
question.
is an interesting.
What? Oh crap! There
is
was a
an
mine.
interesting
I
quandary.
triggered a mine. Now they know I'm here. Now
Just get into the Well,
but the problem is they're gonna check these.
Are they?
Because they heard a sound, they know I'm here. They're gonna start checking stuff like this. And there's
But actually,
8 of them.
It may not actually be a terrible idea to just bottleneck everybody here and just kill them
it
all.
will indeed, because they've all got guns.
You
cannot-
fool! We've all got guns.
I cannot take out. What is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys, 7 guys with guns.
You've done it before in an alleyway.
Not with guns. Generally, only some of them have guns in the alleyways. Okay, no one heard me. Oh, he heard me do that. Well, now that there's a body, frickety doo No! I was gonna get one of them at least, so I can get this guy. I hope. Pound his head into jelly. No,
Squash it
not mine,
into
not
jelly.
mine, not mine. Oh, hi. I thought he was facing the other way. I was gonna do a window takedown on him. Wait, grab the remote.
You ain't looking so good.
So, what
How
is
about
it?
them Redskins? They're not even.
I have to just cut that out.
No, they're not. Oh, are they no longer called that?
They're not. No.
Was that official? Because I heard that was a discussion, but I don't know that they've been talking about that for the last 6 years.
Oh.
Have they actually gone and done it then?
Yes, they have.
I watched a video that was, I believe. Oh, now they're going to call me appropriating because I forget which tribe it was, but it was one of the southwestern, it's like in New Mexico, Arizona, one of the reservation groups.
That would be
And
a
it was-
reservation.
And it was one of the actual, like, I don't know what their terms and stuff are, but it was like one of their respected guys. They were interviewing about this back when this was still relevant. And the guy basically said one of the most, like, truly profound and wise things, and you're going, this is where you know it's fake news, not to use such a loaded term, because that term has become, it means
a Trumpism
it's become
almost.
well, it's become all things to all people, really. Not in the good sense, in the sense
true
of
Scotsman.
okay, yeah, that too. But what I mean is, you can tell that the news doesn't care because this is literally people from this people group talking about it, and the guy says, if someone calls me a redskin and I take offense, that's my responsibility. And I'm like, wow. The dude says it himself, and yet they're going to go, and yet white people are going to say, no, you're just oppressed. You don't actually believe this. It's because you've been, you've internalized it. It's like, how much more patronizing can you be?
You know what that's called? Oppression.
Yeah, that's my point exactly. You're going to tell this guy that what he just said, which was a wise, good thing to say, was not because it was, he couldn't possibly be wise enough to say that. He has to be oppressed.
Well, it's the whole Morgan Freeman saying, you want to stop racism?
Yeah, how do
stop talking about it.
Well, yeah. So you're just going, and I thought it's a great video you should watch because they're going, we got enough problems in our community. This ain't one of them. What you call your football team does not affect us in the least. Okay, other guys.
Can't.
Zooming doesn't help.
I wasn't trying to
Well, the funny, weird drapery we do when we fall in... I've never seen that happen before. So anyways, the Redskins, if they finally have done it, what are they called now? I don't know.
The Reds.
Please tell me you're not being serious.
I'm not being serious, but
Okay,
I did
good. I was
find
about
out.
to say, if that's really what they did, that's just worse.
Here's the thing. There are certain times I get the adjustments. Like, for instance, I was having a conversation with somebody about this the other day. Lady Antebellum ended up changing their name to Lady A, which I was like, okay, that's a little weird. However, Antebellum
really stupid.
means pre...
And the
Civil
antebellum,
War.
well, yeah, the antebellum
And so I go,
South.
okay, well, that's a little bit more like, why would you call yourself lady before the Civil War? I mean, that's a little strange, like, other than
Call
to
yourself
glory.
lady. You're objecting to the lady part, not the antebellum part?
My point is that is a little bit of a loaded band name, to me. So I go, okay, that's
then again,
a better argument. But
I'm not, but see, that's where I go,
But there are certain times I just
man,
go,
we're
you're
going to get
pulling this out of-
demonetized with this trio. The last 3 videos are just going to wipe us out. I think
feel like we're
there's a
approaching
degree
it on
of
a very-
cultural... Here's the problem, and I can't remember if this is a discussion we've had in either a private conversation, a failed recording, or a past recording. But I swear we had the talk of everyone should read before people accuse me of stupid things. Everyone should read the book Apostles of Disunion, which I had to read as part of my political history. No, it wasn't even political. It was just American history. And it's basically it's letters from political figures of the young Confederacy writing to each other and speeches they gave to the public about basically drumming up, getting other states to join the Confederacy. And it's very clear, and the guy it comes from a very I'm not sure what you'd call him, but it comes from a guy who was hardcore, grew up in the deepest of the deep South. Get in there. They probably saw me do that. And he's a history professor, so he's like this guy knows, and it isn't just, an uninformed person saying, "Oh, the South was bad." He's from the South. He's not being disingenuous. But it's a great book, and he makes the case pretty definitively that's yes, clearly the Civil War was about slavery. That issue can be put to rest because you've got these writings of political people saying we can't let this happen because it's about slavery.
Economy, but
they recognize that, and I fully say everyone should read it because it's a very good book and it's very objective on the matter. But the real people I think you should ask are the actual soldiers. What did they think? Because the politicians are talking to other politicians. And if you trust a politician, I don't know what to tell you. Because it's not like politicians back in the day were any different than they were now. So I would like to have someone say, you know what about the war letters? What about the writings of soldiers going, hey, what did they think they were fighting for? Were the politicians lying to them? Because it wouldn't be that far of a stretch to say, hey, yeah, the politicians say, yes, it's about slavery, but, we'll drum up support if we say it's about state rights or whatever.
Well, of course that's what they did because they wanted to scare people into thinking
Exactly.
it mattered to them.
That's where I go. Some people take it as far as to say, oh, no, the states' right...
I was trying to get to the place you are.
Okay, sure. Some people make the argument, and it might be historically founded. This is where I'm not saying this is the truth. I'm saying I would like to see this first. Is some people make the argument that the states' rights argument came about exclusively after the Civil War as an attempt to reframe the loss.
No.
And I've not seen enough evidence for that. The book does not make that claim, nor does anyone I've actually heard who knows much about the matter. Because to me, and again, you could call this propaganda, you could call it anything you want, but I think the thing that comes to my mind is the song The Bonnie Blue Flag,
right,
which is an old folk Confederacy song, which, before anyone asks me, oh, how would you know what that is? It's it's in BioShock Infinite. Yeah. That's where I first heard it. That's where I thought it was catchy. I didn't even know it was a Confederate song until afterwards.
Yes.
But the point is, in that song, it's presumably sung by, soldiers, written probably by the soldiers. They're saying, what we're fighting for is our rights, is our way of life, and against the oppression, or at least perceived oppression, of an overbearing government. Right. So I'm not going to say that those guys were even right. They may well not have been. But I don't think it's fair to write out and say all the soldiers must have been bad because the politicians clearly knew what they were doing. I think it's entirely possible that these people did think they were fighting for something honorable. And it's like, it comes down to the same thing with Vietnam. You go, should those soldiers have been there? No. Whose fault was that? The government's. Should we treat the soldiers bad? No.
Yes.
Their government asked them to fight, and they did. Well, that takes a good deal of courage, and it's still an honorable thing to do, even though the government was wrong.
Well, and that's probably true of Nazi soldiers, too. Sorry.
Oh, I make that... Here's the problem I think too many people make, is the Nazis were not soldiers. The Nazis were politicians.
Yeah.
Like, yes, you could probably make the argument that the SS were Nazis.
Well, and some Nazis probably were actually...
Yeah, some soldiers probably were members of the party, but the word Nazi refers to members of the Nazi party, not just German soldiers.
Correct.
I'm not sure the world's ready to hear this argument, but that is the fact of the matter. You're going, I would bet you... We're just really dying today. I would bet you there were plenty of German soldiers who weren't sold on the whole Nazi thing and just went to war because their country asked them to.
Well, and because they had to, arguably.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure what the policy was, probably. But now the SS is something different, because the SS was the military branch of the Nazi party, and they were, when you think of the quintessential evil Nazis, they were all SS.
Yes.
Himmler, Mengele, those guys, they were all SS. SS were the ones who ran the concentration camps. They were the ones doing all of the worst of the worst stuff. Most German soldiers were just, in trenches fighting on the front lines.
Where is the little place that you are going?
Those grates are over there, but you got to make sure no one's over there first. Anyways, now, of course, we've opened the door to be called Nazi sympathizers. But you know what Ben Shapiro would say to such baseless claims? He would say something I'm not going to repeat, because I don't want to get censored. But basically, only a-holes accuse people of things with no grounding. So if you're going to accuse people of random things without proof, guess what you are? That's, yeah. You have to attract someone to... Whoop, okay, someone thinks he found you. You got to get your detective vision on. You can't see squat. Okay, so those are the guys who saw you. They're coming towards you. Oh, now everyone's coming. This guy, you might grab him before someone else gets there.
How do I...
But yes, so that's my argument. Is I go, should we honor Confederate soldiers? Depends. Should we honor Confederate politicians? Pretty much certainly not. I will grant you that. Let's not, statues of like Jefferson Davis and those guys. Yeah, no, we probably don't need to honor them. Robert E. Lee, other major Confederate generals, they were, in fact, Robert E. Lee, if you're going to make a case for anyone in the Confederacy being a somewhat honorable guy, it's going to be him.
Well, and again, I think that...
even then, he was opposed to slavery. He went to war because his state said, hi, we are going to war. Will you join?
Yes.
And he went, you know what? I may not agree with this, but I am a man of my country, and when my country asks me to fight, I'm going to.
I think that it is true that, and it is an important distinction for those that want to somehow say that the muddying or the morass, I suppose, of...
You're quite fond of that word, aren't you?
I've not used it that often.
Well, you've used it not on this, but I've heard you use it a lot. It's not a bad word. It's good meaning.
Of the political ideology has been changed post history, I suppose, is not true because it's also more likely based on...
But it takes a lot of evidence to prove that.
But it's evidentially true that
I can see
it's more likely that it was a contemporary changing of perspective.
Well,
meaning
that is the argument, and I'm not saying that's
politicians
true.
do put their fingers into things and intentionally twist what people's perceptions are because they want to bring about their own agendas.
Exactly, and I'm not saying with guarantee that that's what happened, but no one's given me proof that it hasn't. And given even my very basic understanding of political theory, Never trust a politician.
Well, that's my point, is more than likely they were actually changing and I suppose deceiving people
Come on.
in their current time. I don't think it happened somehow after the fact.
Yeah, that's my tendency. And here's the primary point, because again, people are going to say, oh, Confederate sympathizers. No, A, shut up and go away. We don't need your kind here. B, let's also just talk for a minute about the way you deal with this on a modern level. Is the answer telling people they're awful and need to change and that they should be ashamed of their history? Because it's like, you think that's going to result in anything positive? Even if you think the idea is problematic, do you think that it's like the veganism?
Yeah.
Vegans may or may not, depending on your ideologies, have a point. If they have one, I'm not sure where it is, but if they might. But the problem is they don't do themselves any favors by being militant and awful people about it.
Right.
So if you say, hey, your history is awful,
Well, and that's not
and
all
you're a terrible
vegans, but
person,
yes.
well, of course. But I'm saying if you say to someone, hey, your history is awful and you're a terrible person, their reaction is going to be, well, screw you.
Yeah.
Because that's not how you change people's minds.
Right.
If you think they're wrong, explain to them. Disagree with them even. And if they're truly stubborn, then that'll be obvious.
Well, and that actually
you'll never convince them, and so okay,
that also reveals your true motivation, because if you're
because it means all you want to do is scream.
Well, it means all
if
you
you're not
want to
willing
do
to
is
argue,
actually continue to widen the schism.
Well, yeah.
Rather
If you're
than
not willing to
actually
argue,
build
then
a
all you were trying to do is make yourself feel better.
Right.
Because you went, I yelled at someone I thought was a racist, therefore I'm a better person. It's like, no, that actually just kind of makes you an a-hole again. But anyways, that's my point, is the guy, in fact, there's a TED Talk by the same guy who wrote the book, I didn't think he was coming up here, that you should watch.
Is he wearing a ball cap?
No, he's wearing the weird goggles.
I straight up...
But in his TED Talk, he concludes by saying, and this is, I think, the right tack, is he's going, the South... I think the problem is, okay, they're coming over here. That's the problem. There's room for error on both sides where you can say, yes, the South does tend to be, of all of the parts of the U.S., the South is the most rooted in its history.
For sure.
The most proud of its history, arguably because most of its history was, a lot of immigration happened in the North, which meant a lot of people who are of the North nowadays may not have been, they might take their pride from different places. Whereas like the South, it's like those people the families in the South had been there since the founding of the country.
Right.
Most of them. So naturally, there's a degree to which they're going to be potentially even, you could describe it as being almost blindly loyal to their history. Which is a problem. You have to acknowledge if you have issues.
It is.
If you have problematic parts of your history, you got to confront that.
We go back to the ignorance argument.
But the problem is you can't do what the progressive Northerners would tell you to do, which is, oh, well, your family history's got some issues, therefore burn it. Because you're never going to convince someone to do that. They're never going to, it's the baby in the bathwater.
Right.
There's things, and that's what the guy said in his concluding point of his TED Talk, is you're going, the South's got a lot to be proud of.
Yeah.
You talk about the best food, the best music, the best products, the best just about everything that this country makes, most of it's made in the South. And we should be proud of those things, and we should also accept the history that led to those things and acknowledge the flaws that it has.
Correct.
And I think that's the only way you're going to bring about change, is by doing it right. You got to take the baby out first. Acknowledge that, hey, there's definitely stuff that is not problematic.
Well, and that's why
you cheapen everything by making everything problematic. Because then even the problematic stuff, if everything's problematic, then nothing is.
Then nothing is. Well, and I'm going to use the term
what a foolish place to stand, my friend.
I'm going to use the term that Jordan Peterson uses. Let's get precise is the point. You have to actually...
oh, no, buddy.
When people, for instance, start... getting fussy about nationalism as a whole. It's like, okay, nationalism is not the issue. It's what you're actually, again, what you're valuing about your history. If you actually are saying, well, I love the fact that the South was racist, well, yeah, now you've got a problem. But if you're just saying, I'm proud about the history that I have within my family lineage, then great. It's like...
Exactly. And you're not going to change people's minds by shouting at them.
Yeah.
There's two guys left. I have one
Well, and I think
opportunity to jam, so I'm gonna jam one guy's gun just to be extra freaking safe.
It's
Oh,
again
boy.
the
Not what I wanted to
argument
do.
that we need to return to comfortable disagreement.
Screw.
You know, when people can't disagree, then there's no progress.
Hey,
ever.
you should shoot at me. I thought about doing something clever and getting up behind him, and then I thought, he can't shoot me anyway, so I'll just taunt him. I think we did it. Even Joker's surprised, and we went overtime trying to get it done, but it has been done. Heavens above. My throat hurts. I promise... Well, I shouldn't do that. We'll try to put the soapbox away next week, because we're at risk of building a small prefecture on top of it now. Again, we're 0 for 3 in this category. Can we get a lighthearted ending to this video?
Well, this
No,
one
is that the
one's
answer?
awfully.
Well, it's been fun. We won't be back on YouTube, clearly. If you don't hear from us, you'll know what happened.
This one's just a grim ending because
Let's just see
everyone's
if
dead.
let's just see if Batman's going. Nope.
Yep, job well done today.
I'm talking about our commentary. Batman, what do you think?